Battle of Karbala, the lioness who roared in anger. What makes a woman stare down a tyrant and say, "I saw nothing but beauty"? How does a man with just 72 companions stand against an army of thousands and still win the hearts of millions for over 300 years? Why did the sands of Karbala become the stage for one of the most powerful moral revolutions in human history? This isn't just a story. It's a saga of sacrifice, a battle of truth versus tyranny, and the birth of a legacy that refuses to die. Meet Hussein ibn Ali, the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, who chose death over dishonor. And meet his sister, Lady Zainab, the fearless voice who turned tragedy into triumph and captivity into revolution. From the burning tents of Karbala to the echoing halls of Yazid's palace, this is the story of how one family's refusal to compromise changed the course of history. So grab your tea, silence your distractions, and prepare to be shaken, stirred, and inspired. Because once you hear what happened in Karbala, you'll never see justice the same way again. In the year 626 CE, in the radiant city of Medina, a child was born into the most illustrious household in Islamic history. His name? Hussein ibn Ali, grandson of the Prophet Muhammad, son of Ali ibn Abi Talib and Fatima al-Zahra. If virtue had a family tree, this kid was swinging from its highest branch. Raised in a home where compassion was currency and justice was the air they breathed, young Hussein watched his grandfather the Prophet battle corruption and tribal tyranny with nothing but truth and a whole lot of patience. Medina wasn't just his playground, it was his moral boot camp. But paradise doesn't last forever. In 632 CE, the Prophet Muhammad passed away. The world mourned, but for young Hussein, it was a seismic loss. The man who had carried him on his shoulders, kissed his belly, and called him the leader of the youth of paradise was gone. And with that, the political unity of the Muslim world began to unravel faster than a cheap rug in a sandstorm. Leadership disputes erupted, factions formed, the Ummah fractured. And in the middle of this chaos stood Hussein's father, Ali ibn Abi Talib, trying to hold the moral compass steady. But Ali's caliphate was marred by civil war, especially against Muawiyah, the governor of Syria, a man whose political ambition was matched only by his talent for stirring trouble. Eventually, Ali was assassinated. Muawiyah took over, and the game changed. To avoid further bloodshed, Hussein's elder brother, Hassan, signed a treaty with Muawiyah. One key clause: Muawiyah wouldn't pass the throne to his son. Spoiler alert, Muawiyah broke that promise like a toddler breaks a cookie jar. After Hassan's mysterious death, many suspect poisoning, Muawiyah handed power to his son Yazid, a man so morally bankrupt he made Nero look like a choir boy. Yazid was a tyrant with a thirst for power and a desperate need for legitimacy. And what better way to get it than to force the beloved Hussein to endorse his rule? But Hussein wasn't having it. Yazid sent word: "Pledge allegiance or die." Hussein replied with the spiritual equivalent of, "Over my dead body." He knew that endorsing Yazid would mean rubber-stamping tyranny. So he packed his bags, kissed Medina goodbye, and headed to Mecca. There, he delivered a fiery sermon that could have melted steel. "You have neglected the rights of the oppressed and the lowly, but have assiduously pursued what you regard as your personal rights." From the city of Kufa, hundreds of letters poured in, begging Hussein to come and lead a revolt against Yazid. They promised loyalty, support, and a warm welcome. Hussein, ever the cautious leader, sent his cousin Muslim ibn Aqil to verify. Muslim arrived, rallied thousands, and wrote back, "Come, the people are with you." But Yazid wasn't twiddling his thumbs. He sent his governor, Ubayd Allah ibn Ziyad, to Kufa, who crushed the uprising and executed Muslim. Hussein didn't know this yet. He was already en route. On the 2nd of October 680 CE, Hussein and his small caravan, 72 loyal companions including family, children, and a few brave converts, were intercepted by Yazid's army, numbering thousands. They were forced to camp on the barren plains of Karbala near the Euphrates River. Then came the cruelty. Yazid's forces cut off their access to water. In the scorching desert heat, even the children cried out in thirst. Hussein's infant son, Ali al-Asghar, would later die in his arms from dehydration. Negotiations failed. Yazid demanded submission. Hussein offered alternatives. Let him return, let him speak to Yazid directly, or let him go to a border region. All rejected. On the 10th of Muharram, known as Ashura, the battle began. Hussein's companions fought valiantly. One by one, they fell. His half-brother Abbas, the flag-bearer, was slain while trying to fetch water. His teenage son Ali al-Akbar was cut down. Even his infant son was killed by an arrow. Finally, Hussein stood alone, bloodied, exhausted, but unbowed. He was struck down, his body mutilated, his head severed and sent to Yazid. The women and children were taken captive. But Hussein's sister Zainab rose like a phoenix. Born in 626 CE in Medina, Lady Zainab was no ordinary child. Her lineage was a constellation of holiness, granddaughter of Prophet Muhammad, daughter of Imam Ali and Fatima al-Zahra, sister to Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein. Her name, Zainab, means adornment of her father. And boy, did she live up to it. She inherited her father's eloquence, her mother's purity, and her grandfather's prophetic fire. Even as a child, she was known for her wisdom and spiritual depth too. Zainab was 55 years old when she accompanied her brother Hussein to Karbala. She wasn't there to fight. Islamic law forbade women from combat, but she was the emotional and spiritual backbone of the camp. She watched her sons, Aoun and Muhammad, fall in battle. She saw her brother Abbas slain. She witnessed the brutal martyrdom of Hussein himself. And then came the horror. The tents were burned, the women and children were taken captive, and the severed heads of the martyrs were raised on spears. But Zainab? She didn't flinch. She became the shield of the survivors, the voice of the voiceless, and the keeper of the truth. Dragged in chains to Yazid's court in Damascus, Zainab stood before the tyrant who had orchestrated the massacre. Yazid, drunk on power and poetry, mocked her and asked, "How did you find the way Allah treated your brother and your family?" Zainab's reply? A line that shattered the arrogance of empires. "I saw nothing but beauty." Mick. Drop. She then launched into a fiery sermon that scorched Yazid's throne. She reminded him that his ancestors were freed by her grandfather during the conquest of Mecca. She condemned his hypocrisy, his cruelty, and his delusions of grandeur. 6. Her words were so powerful, they turned a spectacle of humiliation into a revolution of truth. Zainab didn't stop in Yazid's court. She gave another thunderous sermon in Kufa, rebuking the citizens who had invited Hussein and then betrayed him. "Do you know whose blood you have shed? Whose sanctity you have violated? You have done that which could tear down the skies and make the mountains vanish." She became the historian of Karbala, the moral compass of the Ummah, and the torchbearer of Hussein's mission. Zainab, alongside Hussein's surviving son Ali Zain al-Abidin, began retelling the story of Karbala. Their words ignited uprisings across the empire. The people realized Yazid's tyranny and revolted. Eventually, Yazid's rule crumbled. 9. Ali Zain al-Abidin, though sick during Karbala, became the fourth imam. He compiled the famous Sahifa Sajidiyya, a book of prayers that taught spiritual resistance and social justice. 10. Today, Zainab's legacy is immortal. Her shrine in Damascus is a pilgrimage site for millions. Her courage is a symbol for oppressed people everywhere. Her sermons are studied as masterpieces of resistance. Every year during Ashura, millions mourn Hussein, but they also celebrate Zainab. Because without her, Karbala would have been a tragedy buried in the sand. She turned it into a moral revolution that still inspires the fight for justice. 4. Zainab didn't just survive Karbala, she transformed it. She taught us that justice is not negotiable, truth must be spoken, even in chains. And when the world burns, the brave don't run, they rise. So elegant, if Hussein was the sword, Zainab was the echo. Don't miss our next episode, the Battle of Qadisiyah, 636 CE, where the mighty Persian Empire faced the rising tide of Islam. It was a showdown of swords, strategy, and spiritual fire. The Persians had elephants, the Muslims had faith, and the desert winds carried the echoes of a new era. From the blood-soaked plains of Qadisiyah to the fall of Ctesiphon, this battle wasn't just a military victory, it was a civilizational pivot. If you found this story of courage, conviction, and timeless truth as powerful as we did, then don't just watch, join the movement. We've got more riveting stories, legendary figures, and moral awakenings coming your way. Be part of the journey, because every time you stand up for truth, you're walking in the footsteps of Hussein and Zainab. Follow us, subscribe to our channel, and click that notification bell so you never miss another soul-stirring tale from history's vault.